Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In the last video, you guys might remember that we actually got a lot of different parcels from one of our subscribers, Wretched Davian. And in those parcels, we got some Drosera seeds. We have Drosera praefolia and Drosera mincara over here. And of course, we need to sow them and pot them up and get them ready to start growing, because they start growing a little bit later on in the year, in about the end of next month, which will be the end of August, September, October. That's when these guys actually germinate. But I want to get them potted up now because I'm not going to have time later on to do it. So that's what we're going to do in this video. Okay guys, so as I said, we are going to be potting up these different Droseras here, Drosera praefolia and Drosera mincara. Drosera mincara is actually the world's smallest Drosera. It is a tuberous Drosera, and of course it's native here to Australia. And this is Drosera praefolia. It's actually a very beautiful Drosera, and I really like how these guys look. So yeah, I'm very, very excited to actually get these guys all potted up and started to, germinate, because as I said, they don't actually germinate right now. All of our other seeds have pretty much germinated except for two, Drosera whitakeri and Drosera binata. And I think that those guys are going to be germinating a little bit later on because they're like late bloomers or something. And it's the same with these guys. They actually don't germinate until much later on in the season. So kind of like in springtime or like early spring, that's when they actually germinate and start growing, which is kind of weird because tuberous Drosera are meant to be winter growers, but they're kind of germinating in spring. So I don't know why they do that, but anyway, I'm really, really excited to get them potted up. So as I said in that previous package, we got a ton of different things. And the first thing we will be doing is potting these guys up. But once these guys are all potted up, we will start going through each and everything that was in that parcel box that we got. If you guys remember, we got some super old National Geographic books. We got some carnivorous plant newsletters and old newsletters from back then. We got an awesome carnivorous plant book from a guy named Kondo, and it was back then one of the best picture books for carnivorous plants that you could find anywhere in the world. And this was more than 40 years ago, guys. So you can imagine that, a book with color of specific carnivorous plants must have been super awesome back then. So we got one of those original books, and it's signed by those guys themselves, which is super, super awesome. And of course, we got some DVDs and some USBs and all these other things. But as I said, we will go through them each one by one. And this is the first step. So as these guys are tuberous Drosera, we need to treat them like all of our other tuberous Drosera. We're going to be growing them in a mixture of peat and sand, in a mixture, or I should rather say in a ratio of 2:1. And the reason for this is because tuberous Drosera grow in very, very sandy soils. And oftentimes in the summertime where they grow, it is very, very dry. So this is why the sand is like so sandy, or the soil is so sandy, and is another reason why the soil stays so dry, because of all the excess sand. So we obviously have to try and mimic that with what we will grow them in. Also, these guys grow in the winter time. As I said earlier, this is when they grow and germinate, but these guys are a little bit different, kind of weird, but whatever, as long as we have those awesome plants busy growing. And yeah, once we've got them all potted up, we're going to put them right aside with all our other tuberous Drosera. And I think that if we do have enough extra time in this video, I will give you guys a quick update on how they're all looking. As I said, it's becoming now the end of winter time, it's August now. So yeah, this is the last month of winter. So it's getting quite, warm compared to what it was. And the plants are starting to grow really, really well now. So I'm really excited to give you guys an update. Anyway, let's go and get all of our soil ready and start preparing the pots for these seeds. Okay, so as you guys saw, the first step was obviously to get our sphagnum moss. Now the reason why I'm using sphagnum moss is like literally because I don't want sand to fall out the bottom of our pots. And if you're growing carnivorous plants, you need to ensure that they obviously have pots with holes at the bottom so that water can get through. But I don't want the sand to fall through. So that's why I put the sphagnum moss, because that allows the water to get through, but obviously not any of the sand. So this is kind of like a bottom liner, and it's working pretty awesomely so far. None of our plants or none of our pots are losing soil into the water trays. There's a little bit of soil loss, but really nothing compared to what there is if you don't use sphagnum moss. So yeah, this is something you guys can try if you really want to. But anyway, all the extra moss that I don't use here, all I do is that I keep it in the tray and I keep it hydrated because I really want some live sphagnum moss to start growing so that we don't have to constantly buy those big bales of sphagnum moss. So the first thing we'll do is that we will roll these different sphagnum pieces into little coils, and I'll put that at the bottom of the pot, and then we'll fill it up with the peat afterwards as well. And as I said, that is a peat and sand mixture in a ratio of 2:1 because these plants like the super sandy soil. So let's start coiling up the sphagnum. Okay guys, so here is our pot, here's the sphagnum just off to the side. I'm not gonna keep them both in frame, but there is a piece of sphagnum over here that is like kind of a little bit green, this little piece here. So because it's a little bit green, it makes me think that it's more alive than the others. So I'm literally gonna keep this piece out so that we don't, mistakenly put it into the pot over here, so that hopefully it grows. I'm not sure if it will or won't, but let's try it. So what I do with the sphagnum moss here, as I said, I coil it up. And the reason why I coil it up instead of just dropping them in like that is because if I coil it up, firstly, I use less sphagnum moss. And then secondly, I can ensure that every single hole is properly covered up. So as I say, literally just coil it up like this. And I just shove it on top of the hole. See, just like that, it's super easy. And you can see the hole at the bottom is completely covered so that none of the soil can actually get out. And I do this for literally all of our plants that we have, all of the plants that we've actually grown together so far, that we've planted up together. Essentially every single plant that I've actually, owned here in Australia, I have done this with, except for those Venus flytraps, because I didn't get those Venus flytraps myself. I didn't pot them up. I just bought them from the shop, and that's what they came in. It's just a mixture of some sand and peat in that little pot of theirs. So for them, they don't have this, but there is a little bit of soil leakage in their pots. But all of the other plants, including the Tuberous Drosera, which are quite big now actually, we have been growing for a long time, they all have this sphagnum moss at the bottom. And yeah, it really helps just to keep that soil in. You guys can try it out. I know some people might actually like this because you may be like me and you don't want to lose all your soil in the soil trays, because firstly it gets quite messy, and then secondly it's very annoying because then the level of your the soil goes down. And I don't know about you guys, but I really hate that because it just doesn't look good in my opinion. Like different heights of soil in different pots, that literally makes no sense to me. So yeah, that's why it really helps me out. But yeah, as I said, for some of you guys, you may really enjoy it too. So that's a nice tip that you guys could use, or you could just not use it, and just let the pots fall down into nothingness. And then eventually you'll have your plants in the soil tray, I guess. Yeah, I've never really let it get to that point, but I would hate that to happen with my plants. And what I do for these smaller holes that kind of aren't in the corners, I just place some sphagnum moss on top of it just like that. And then when I put the soil on top of it afterwards, that soil actually holds it into place, because obviously the ones that are in those corners there, you can shove it in real good. But obviously these ones that are on the top, on the ridges, yeah, they have to be held down. So I just press them into place, as you guys can see me doing. And then once we get the soil, which will be once I cover up this last hole here, then you'll see exactly what I mean. So there we go. That's obviously 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8 pieces of sphagnum instead of just a whole bunch of different sphagnum pieces, because you'll have to cover the whole base if you just throw it on. And then there's still holes, which I actually experienced when I first tried this. So yeah. Anyway, now this is our soil mixture right over here. And this is when I gently just drop it on top of those sphagnum pieces like that. So you see now they're being held from the top. And what I also really do suggest that you guys do, and what I always do, is that I then pack down this first layer of the peat and sand. For all of my carnivorous plant mixtures, this is what I do, so that the layer of sphagnum at the bottom and the first layer has really good contact with each other, so that the water can easily get into the media. So you can kind of, I don't want to turn this upside down. You guys can kind of see that they've kind of been pushed out the holes now, which is great. It means that none of the holes are open and they're pressed firmly into place and they're not going to move out. So this is perfect. And as I said, it means that this bottom layer now has good contact with the sphagnum moss, which means it has good contact with the water, so that the whole pot gets watered equally. Something that I actually used to do when I first started growing these plants was that I didn't pack down the soil. And what this meant is that the plant at the top didn't get any water, which is obviously really bad. Only really the bottom bit of the pot was getting water where the water could get in. But because it wasn't packed down very tightly, the water was not able to move up, and then the plants eventually dried out and died. So you guys need to make sure that you don't compact it too much, but you do compact it enough so that there is actual contact with the soil with each other, so water can actually flow throughout the mixture. You guys may notice now I'm packing it down here still, but I'm not packing it down as hard. Guys, I never make enough soil. I don't understand how this even happens in the first place, because I always measure it out. So what I just remembered is that when we last had tuberous drosera, I had extra sand left over. Okay, so as you guys saw, now all of our two pots here, our two pots, stop tilting your head. Our two pots are all ready for our seeds over here. I'm going to plant them up in a second. But this is the most important part. This is when you actually have to ensure that you write out your labels for your plants so that you know what plants they are and you don't get them all mixed up. Now it is time for us to actually get the seeds out and to sow them. Okay guys, so I just have some normal examination pad here, so we can pour the seeds onto it and obviously be able to see them clearly, because otherwise if you just put them onto your table, these seeds are so small that you'll quite easily and quickly lose them. So at least if they're on the white paper, you can see them much easier. Now I'm just trying to open up this little vial here with our seeds, but it's actually quite difficult. There we go. So this is our Drosera praefolia. I'm not going to get them all out because there's no real need to. So these are some Drosera praefolia seeds, and as you can see, they're quite tiny. They are, I would say, about 1 millimeter in size, so they're quite big actually compared to any other Drosera seeds. So yeah, you guys can see they're about 1 millimeter in size, which is something in the American measurements at the top, but I don't know what you guys would call that, like 1/100th of an inch or something. Okay guys, and now we're going to try and see the Drosera mincara seeds, the world's smallest Drosera, so I'm pretty sure these seeds are going to be extremely tiny and difficult for me to actually see, but there is quite a bit of soil from obviously the ground that these seeds came from. So yeah, they're super tiny, so they get full of dust and the dirt that they grow in on them. Okay guys, and here is our seed pile. Just shake it out a little bit. Now can you guys tell what seed and what isn't? Because I can't. Honestly, I can't. I don't know what is seed here and I don't know what is seed. Yeah, I literally cannot see which is seed, which is sand, which is anything. I mean, I have some ideas. I mean, this over here looks like it could be a seed, but then at the same time, this over here is also quite round like a seed. So honestly, I'm just as confused as you guys. Of course, we can't see the seeds, but we're just gonna plant this whole thing into that sand. So let's start doing that now. Okay guys, so as I already explained, we're just gonna pour that whole top bit, well, all of that sand kind of stuff on the paper. We're gonna pour it right on top of this pot over here, so that we don't miss out on anything that could or couldn't be seeds. So just like every other carnivorous plant, you just want to fold your paper up, tap, tap, tap like this. The bigger pieces, you see they move to the middle, and the smaller ones stay up there. But you really want to form a V so that they all congregate in the middle. And then you just tap it on top of your pot like this. And this is what I do with all Drosera seeds, almost all carnivorous plant seeds actually. It makes it super easy to do it like this. So there are some of our Drosera Mincara seeds on there. And now, don't forget your label. I'm going to do the exact same thing with the Drosera Praefolia over there. So let's do that. So we got a good bit of seed over here. Our subscriber, Wretched David, he even said that he likes it to give a good pinch of seeds, is what he said, a good pinch. So yeah, as you can see, you guys won't be able to tell really, but I used about 1/4 or maybe 1/3 of the total seeds that we had in this whole thing, and we covered up the top of this pot pretty well, so we will have tons and tons of seeds there. So the best thing to do now is after you get your seeds sown on, you want to make sure they have good contact with the soil. So you take your spray bottle and you just spray it down. And there we go guys. Now when we spray that water on, obviously it gets on top of the seeds and moves them around so they can fall into little crevices, and it obviously makes sure that they have good contact with the soil. And yeah, as you guys can tell, the Praefolia seeds are much bigger than the Drosera Mincara seeds, even though they're like in the same family of Drosera, tuberous Drosera. It just shows you the big size differences you can get. So now all that is left for us to do is to add water into the tray and put these guys on the porch outside so that they can stay protected until I start seeing any germination. And when that does happen, I will move them outside with all the other plants. So make sure that you guys actually subscribe so that you can actually see them growing up and sprouting and germinating with us, so that you guys don't miss out on any of that interesting stuff. So let's now just quickly water them up. There we go guys, they're all watered up. So now let's go and put them outside onto our porch. And there we have it guys, we have now sown our Drosera Mincara and Drosera Praefolia seeds. Thank you to you, Wretched David, for obviously giving us all that awesome stuff in all of those packages and those seeds too. And unfortunately guys, this video is actually a little bit long, so we won't be able to look at our plants outside and give you guys an update. But if you guys do want to see how they look, make sure that you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our weekly videos. And obviously we will be doing an update on them, so definitely make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on that video. And also so you don't miss out on these guys growing up either, and so that you also don't miss out on us talking about all of those cool things that we actually got in the mail, because I will be talking about each one of them individually, because they're actually very, very unique and interesting, and there's some cool things that we could actually do with some of the stuff that we got. So I'll see you guys in the next episode.